Hi, everyone. It's Robyn, Bayana, and Porshèa embarking on a journey through the many fantasy stories written by and about Black people. Currently, we're reading Amari and the Despicable Wonders by B.B. Alston, and today we're discussing chapters 25 through 27.
But before we can get into the fresh wonders of Amari and Despicable Wonders, let's talk about what happened previously on Wizard Team. So in the last episode, we saw Amari run into Harlow while she was tied up in this room by the magicians. And she decides, in her incredible abilities, Harlow, that she's going to deface the mural using her heel before she walks away. Like, do what you got to do, girl, I guess. Amari's team is then locked in more than ever. Once they're able to get the mural back to headquarters and like get a gander at it, they learn so much more about the wonders, and they when they are approached by agents in the bureau, specifically Quentin and one Director Van Helsing, they all decide they're going to take the blame for going to steal the mural against their orders, and they use the lockless key that they find within the mural to escape the bureau and find the rest of the wonders by themselves. Quentin, we are sad to report, is still on some BS. That BS being anti-magician stuff and just generally being stuck on what the Bureau says and Bureau does. And Bertha, maybe the biggest softie we've ever heard of, but also with that general exterior, is working for us in a way that, like, I guess the coating shell of a M&M works. Bertha, the M&M, who knew?
That candy coated wheat on the inside.
That little crack on it, the crackling
That little...
on the outside.
Okay, chapter 25. So, chapter 24 ends with shadows, like, coming in, like, what did I say? The boss said you might show up here, coming into, like, Dylan's room. And Amari immediately grabs her stun stick and aims it, but the unwanted is retreating into the shadows. And then Laura steps up, pointing her own stun stick, but they can't actually use their stun sticks because it's this amorphous shadow moving like liquid. And then Laura tells us this is a black dread, and they don't know what to do. And then the dread reaches out and touches Laura, and she just drops unconscious, which is a really cool power set, I'd like to say. Terrifying.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like its own stun stick. Like,
if you're gonna be a shadow, like, I better be able to do some creepily cool powers. Like,
well, I mean, but it's also like she's unconscious. She's not dead. You know what I mean? Like, it's like a really great
creepily
middle
cool.
grade. Like, yeah. I'm a fan. So then I love this part. Jaden steps up in front of Elsie to protect her, but soon, like, the dread just overpowers all of them, and they are all knocked unconscious. And Amari wakes up first, and they are in a cage made of shadows, but it's solid, and she can't. She's trying, but she can't escape. And she starts screaming, and a night walker is there and tells her that they've called Dylan, who's going to come and deal with them. Amari's like, Dylan wants to use anti-magic, and it will destroy you and us and destroy everything. And it just... I know that we're in a tough time. And I know that people think about fantasy as escapism. But okay, so I'm just going to read it. One of the Nightwalkers, they're in a room full of Nightwalkers, I guess. We know full well what he's planning, and we're all for it. Tear it all down, I say. What's the supernatural world ever done for unwanteds? And then Amari's like, look at what he did to Merlin, and Merlin's on your side. And they go, Merlin said he was on our side. Big difference between saying and doing. And I'm just like, did I stop reading this book and turn on Fox News? Like, what's going on? Yeah. So but then the Black Dread comes back, and it says that one of Dylan's lackeys wrote back saying he's asleep recovering from a hex, but and not to be disturbed. And then another Nightwalker is like, we caught the magician girl he's been on about forever, and he can't even be bothered to answer our messages. And we're like, ooh, there's some tension.
But also, there's some tension, but I'm also like, if he's hexed and knocked out, then if he's unconscious, what is he supposed to do? Unhex himself all of a sudden?
So Amari is like, okay. Oh, so Laura wakes up at that point, and then she's like doing some like side comments. I find that hilarious. She's like, my brother left you on red, huh? Just been there, done that. Like, ooh. And so then Amari asked Laura to keep an eye out, and she's going to try something stupid. And I'm like, you didn't have to specify.
I will say I think it's funny that she considers it stupid when it's actually one of the smarter.
Yeah. She's like, this is really reckless. Done. I'm like, this is really reckless.
The levels of recklessness, like this one's actually pretty on point.
This is pretty, spot on. There's, so she puts on her Victor's ring and uses like the last of that power, that last of that magic to pull Dylan into a dream meet. And, is hoping that she can get him to say something or do something that then she'll be able to figure out what his like next steps are, what the game plan is, or so she gets him in and he's looking bad. He's doubled over, gripping his head with both of his hands. And says, you're going to be the end of both of us. And so she's like, what is wrong with you? And he kind of lets her know that wearing the crown comes with a cost, but he doesn't care about it, and he'll do what he needs to do. And so Amari starts to ask him questions, and she's trying to be like coy about it, but she basically is like, we know what you're up to. We know where the lens of increase is, trying to get him to think about the lens of increase so they can figure out where it is and get to it before. Very top-notch spy interrogation work. She's watched the Black Widow scenes in Avengers quite a few times. Doesn't really work. He's like very clever. I almost fell for it, but then he decides that he wants to one more time try to get her to understand why he's doing what he's doing. And in that, he ends up betraying that, like, or he keeps talking, and that then he reveals to Amari that, like, it's actually Moreau's apprentice who knows where all the wonders are and who, like, moved them. And then once he realizes again that he told her what she wanted to know, he snaps out of here. He wakes them up and ends the dream. So once Amari wakes up again, Laura has something snarky to say, like, you told me you're doing something reckless and you took a nap. Granted, but also Elsie and Jaden are up, and they have found Shadow and Newton Feardrinker. They accidentally fell in with these unwanteds and are happy to use the favor that they owe Amari to help them escape. So they grab the lockless key, and Amari uses that to get back to Laura's room, and Newton and Shadow hitch a ride with them. And there's another Nightwalker who's like following, or like tries to like catch them. And Amari's like, grab the key so that they can't like follow them. And then the door fades, and right in the face of the Black Dread, so they're not followed. But also, maybe the Black Dread knows where they're at. I don't know. But they escape, and that is the end of chapter 25. This chapter, I think, is like it's a lot of information kind of dumping, but also I think it's interesting because it sets up a few things. Like, so it really shows like this weird dichotomy. Like I like kind of mentioned with the unwanteds. And I think a lot of people that are in kind of the margins of the status quo of what the Bureau and the supernatural world have set up, where they are, they're marginalized, they're considered criminals, or they have all this legislation around like what they can and can't do. And so they are not easily, but so they're hopeful that under Dylan's rule, things will be better for them, but they're also seeing how like Dylan is mostly cares about like magician kind, and even then mostly cares about himself. So like even in this, like in these small ways,
and even then
still kind of
Dylan is interesting to me. It also, like, going off of that, because even then he's willing to sacrifice himself, but now it's not all that clear like what he's sacrificing himself for.
Yeah, because
it's not like these other magicians and stuff are like, some of them are with him, but it's not like they're, a lot of the stuff they're doing right now is under duress.
Yeah,
even if they're on his side, like, it still opens up, like, there's still that threat of them losing their magic.
Right. And so it's a weird thing where it feels like he's speaking this good game, and I think like part of him, because there's this moment in his confrontation with Amari in the dream, where Amari's like, or Dylan says like, he's like, I want you to understand me. I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this for all magicians. And Amari's like, no, because you have already gotten to the point where you're the most powerful magician in the history of magicians, and all you're doing is like continuing this war when you could be like yielding this power differently, and you're like spending a lot of time going after even more power. And so you're not trying, like, you could be protecting magicians, right? Like,
right,
kudos for getting the magicians out of the Sightless Depths, but then you blow up the Congress building, and now they're all again like feared and in worse positions than they were beforehand. And so Dylan says something like power, or he says power is the only thing anyone respects. But it's like, at what point? And I always feel this way in general, is like, especially with like, like capitalism and growth, as someone who works for a freaking, I don't know if, I feel like all corporations are probably talk about this in this way, but like, it's always like year over year growth, and we've seen growth. And I'm like, at what point
do you stop growing?
Is growth? Do you stop growing
like,
and then start like just doing and doing well? You know what I mean? Like, I worked at a social media site where I'm like, you have X amount of users. Like, that's a lot of fucking people. Maybe take a year to not focus on growth and focus on like making sure the people are safe and having a good experience. Maybe.
Robyn, you're talking about, I feel like, so capitalism, y'all know, capitalism is one of my favorite things to rant about. So as y'all are talking about it, I'm like, it's because I feel like people have made this comparison before, so I'm not unlocking anything new here, but the very mission of capitalism is to be the modern day version of the what is that, the like manifest destiny whole thing. Like, it's like, oh, like everything under the sun should be utilized by specific humans to make those specific humans' lives unparalleled to the regular human. And that's all life is supposed to be about, is those specific humans manifesting a life where every other human is subjugated to their rule. And so growth and expansion is on the same terms of growth and expansion of how they talked about dividing and apportioning the United States, how they did all the colonization they've done across the world. It's all the same language. They just apply it to, well, now we're doing it in an internet space. Oh, well, now we're doing it with products. Oh, now we're doing it with XYZ. So I feel like it's just so funny to like, well, like, maybe we should think about quality. Who cares about quality if the top people are getting the quality of life they want, who cares
Right.
what the users are getting? Like, that doesn't mean anything.
And it's so funny because it's like you know that, but it's like they use this language to kind of like get you on board, right? Like, we're growing to do this, or we're changing the world, or with Dylan, I'm protecting magicians, I'm protecting unwanteds. And it's like, well,
who asked you?
One, who asked you, but two, when does the protection start? Like,
Right.
how much power
Right.
do you need?
Because it
Obviously,
hasn't actually.
you need to acquire some power to help protect these people. But like Amari said, like,
You got the power.
you got the power. Yeah, like, when does the protection start? When is, like, you know, and I think it's a thing that happens even with capitalism, and like we're seeing now with like big tech and stuff. It's like, after a while, the people who are not in charge and benefiting, after a while, the people who voted against DEI and for, you know, for less government in my whatever, are now seeing like, oh, I voted for you to do these things and you got the power, now do the thing. Like, but that's actually, you know, but that was just a talking point to get the power, you know, it was just the sales pitch, and never actually it's not actually what they're about.
I do believe that Dylan I do believe that he thinks that he wants to protect magicians and unwanted. It's like, I do get the feeling that like he does think that's what he's doing. But again, it's like, but I also think it has to do with like he's using all of this. We've already seen like the effect that foul magic has on the user. So there's that as well. It's like you're using this force that corrupts you and makes you like is naturally selfish. So how can you use something that's naturally selfish to help others?
Let me talk about for a second. Sorry, didn't want to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
As a poli-sci major, so many years ago, one of the things that one of my professors really kept driving home, he's like, if you don't remember anything else, remember this one. And it's like such an old thing, but it's true. It doesn't go away. Is the idea, like, it is I forget who the original person who said it is. Forgive me. I don't really attribute things to people unless I really care. Is power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And so whenever you're like, Dylan has this crown, which is like basically like absolute magic power, and it is corrupting him absolutely. Not one cell of his body is not being corrupted by his interaction with this crown. For people who have watched Adventure Time, it sounds like the same kind of thing that's happening with the Ice King and the crown that he wears. Like, you get to see that, like, because it's like a apocalyptic show that you learn about like later, that it's a post-apocalyptic show. He was a normal scientist guy who was really smart ahead of him putting on the crown, and then when he puts on the crown, he becomes this eccentric, obsessed with kidnapping young women man. And it's because he wears this corrupting crown, he can't even remember himself. He doesn't even know who he is anymore. And it's played off for laughs, but it's also very extremely sad. I think with Dylan, him, like, it sounds like in his brain, and we've talked about this before, how Dylan sees himself as the hero. He wears a red cape. He thinks he's like in this. And so he thinks he's just taking a bullet for the whole supernatural world. Oh, I'm letting this crown corrupt me and like take my sanity. But it's like, again, no one asks you to do that. You could have been there taking the powers and not, like, you know, like, not have worn the crown. Like, you could have been that guy. You're a born magician and you could have done that. You decided, because of how you were taught by your grooming parents who groomed you to be a freaking like corrupt little boy, and then
you're grooming Moreau.
Set you up. Then you're grooming by Moreau, who furthered that education. And here you are, like, all these opportunities. Like, when he ran into Amari, she's kind of like the last failsafe for him to be like, you know what? Maybe I should take a second, look at my life. And figure out if this is the path that I want to go down. And he didn't do it. And you know why he didn't do it? Because he decided not to do it. It's a choice that he made to not be that guy. So when he's like, "Oh, woe is me," I don't know if you were to name say the quote, but it was like when he goes, "Oh, woe is me," about like self-loathing and all of that. I'm like, one, I don't believe you. Two, it's very interesting how this discussion about like your self-loathing and how the world has set it out to hate you, and you just want to like push back against that all, like, sounds very familiar to the Black plight, does it not? And all the times that we have seen Black people push for just basic human political social rights, and the white folks were like, "What about me? I hate my life too." It's like, okay, but like no one's stopping you. You're stopping you. We're not, no, like we're being stopped. So don't try to play this game. Like you're the person holding yourself back. If you want to be that guy, you could have been that guy. You have the power. Okay. Dylan,
Yeah.
I can't. And I know he's a little blonde
also...
boy too, and that bothers me.
There's one other thing too from that moment with the Unwanteds. I think you mentioned it in your summary, Robyn, of like them talking about the difference between Merlin, like Merlin saying that he was for them, but not necessarily like showing that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's so like I do think it's interesting to see, and I hope that in like further books we'll like not necessarily have more smoke from Merlin specifically, but I think that like in a lot of ways he is what this system is built around and why everyone's freaking out that he died. But then you're like, but we've seen all of these like things about the system that don't work. And he's supposed to be this like benevolent guy who like helps, you know what I mean? Like cares about these people, but it's like, does he, or like what? So I'm curious because he's gone. I'm not like sure that we'll get into that, but I do think it's something that like sort of keeps coming up in these smaller ways that I think would be interesting to go deeper into.
So the last thing I want to like point out, and this is like a quote, but also like that it touches something in Amari and it touches something I think in all of us, is like, so Dylan says, like, Amari's like, "You just want to burn it down," right? And so then Dylan is like, "I've spent my entire life loathing who I am and what being a magician means in the supernatural world. Why should I care for a world that hates me?" And like Amari is like, points, but you know, and I think that's like a very interesting, like again in this like middle grade, like in putting lessons about empathy, but also just like what it means to change systems and how to change systems, and also the most privileged people being the ones that are the most willing to just burn it all because they're not the ones that are going to immediately be affected by the burning, right? Or like be least affected by the burning, right? And so that's like something politically that we see a lot where, I mean, even now it's like, oh, Bernie, blah, 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 or not, whatever, Bernie, Green Party, whatever. And people are like, well, we have to vote for the lesser evil. And we see how like that, the return on investment there is like less and less and less. But there is this very real fear about like, our immediate fear about letting people or about burning the whole thing down or all of the protections down, because like even if the protections are not adequate and they're not like good enough, it's something, right? And that's what people like the hope that people cling to. But it's also, I don't know, I feel like there is a way, there has to be, I have to feel this way to have any hope. And I think that like Amari kind of feels this too, of like thinking about that while also having care for the people who are the most vulnerable. And like who knows what that looks like? I don't know what that looks like. And Amari is even like, yeah, like that emotion I get. And she thinks back about like all of the ways in which like she's been treated. And then like the flip side of that is like, I'm like looking at Dylan and mostly to the non-born magicians. And I think I'm just going to keep harping on this because of like the way that this world is set up of like at a certain point, because Dylan was a born magician, he can't really help it. But like in the idea of like what being a magician means in the supernatural world and like and like loathing that, like, and having self-loathing about it for the non-born, and there's only 2 of them a generation, right? But for every other magician, it's like, well, you chose that. And I don't know, like, you know, we're looking at like Hannah and Lucas and like they're like Amari's age, so it's like also like, why are we letting you choose that at that age, you know? But like
maybe it's a family thing. I feel like it was for the Van Helsings.
Yeah,
so
it
maybe
feels
that's
like
what it is.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that it's like an, you know, oh, just don't choose, or, you know, because it's a lot that goes into it, but it's just this very like awkward thing of like, that is a valid emotion, but you're fine. Like you had all of this self-loathing and about what being a magician means in the supernatural world. Meanwhile, you grew up with like a sports car in your living room and your own wing of the house. Like, if you don't like, again, maybe watch some RuPaul's Drag Race. I don't know if they get that on Dinette, but if you can't love yourself, how the hell you know what I mean? Like, some self-reflection is like some again.
That would require
You burning down the world is not going to make you like yourself.
Yeah. And I'm not convinced that he likes himself now.
No, he doesn't. He does not. That's why, like, he like immediately he looks at Amari and he's like, you're going to be the death of us or whatever. Knows exactly what she's doing. Like, he clocks it pretty quickly, but then like he's so compelled to make her see things and again, I will keep saying this. He wants Amari to understand him without understanding Amari. And also, he doesn't really want Amari to understand him. He just wants her to join her, like to follow, or like,
I think he just wants her to like him. I think he's like, if Amari's a good person, if Amari likes me, then at least somebody likes me because I don't like me. So if a good person likes me, then I know that I'm likable because a good person likes me.
But I also think that in his, like, he sees being liked as being understood.
Yeah.
Because I would argue that Amari actually understands him really
better
well.
than he. Yeah, Amari understands him pretty damn well.
She's very clear about who he is.
But I also think that like the idea of like it's the world's fault, and I mean I feel like he's so young, and like we've talked about this so much too, because like feeling loathed and unwanted in the world is very traumatizing, especially for a young kid. And like Amari clocks that, and it's like, yeah, been there, done. Like, I know, you know what I mean? Like, I know what that is. But then the way in which you deal with that feeling unwanted, the way you deal with feeling misunderstood or taken for granted or whatever, is just as important as the feeling itself, and also like where it comes from. And like, I don't know, at a certain point, I think when you become older, to any younger people listening to this, you also start to think about, okay, well, who are the people that are rejecting me? Do I actually care? Like, or like, would I actually feel good about being accepted by this type of person? Whereas I think when you're young, all you can feel is the rejection, and you don't have the like the emotional maturity and like space to be like, actually don't mind being rejected by that type of person or by that system. self-reflection,
friends.
growth.
You need to
Mm.
have
community.
people, you need to know that there's like, it's in order to know who you don't want around, you need to know what you
who you
do
do.
want around. And he doesn't
Yeah.
have any friends. He doesn't know what it's like to know someone who's like, oh, I F's with this person besides Amari. And again, he's thinking, oh, if she understands, like, and she does understand him, he doesn't realize to himself, I want her to like me. That's like, it's a lot. And it's like, if he had better parents, he wouldn't be looking for validation by doing all these things that he's doing. If he had better parents, they'd have him at least in therapy where he could start to come to grips with like what the things are that he's looking for, but he doesn't have that. So what does he do? He has a diatribe to the person that he wants most to like him. And
also,
it's
she would
so
like him a
sad.
lot more if he would stop murdering people.
Right.
Step one.
But that's not he doesn't want her to guide him. He just wants her the validation of her liking him.
Yeah.
Here on Wizard Team, it's no surprise that we love books. We also love supporting the
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
independent bookstores.
With our Bookshop affiliate link, you can not only get all the books on your TBR, but you can support indie bookstores and B&C at the same time.
And if you're not sure what you want, that ain't no problem. Check out our The Plot Thickens list full of recommendations from none other than Porshèa herself.
Head to www.bookshop.org/shop/BlackNerdsCreate to treat your shelves.
Treat your shelves.
Oh, that's nice. That's clever.
Oh my goodness.
That's clever.
The last thing you want to hear when you need your auto insurance most is a robot with countless irrelevant menu options. Which is why with USAA Auto Insurance, you'll get great service that is easy and reliable, all at the touch of a button. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply. USAA.
Okay, so chapter 26. So Amari debriefs her friends on her conversation with Dylan, and we're trying to figure out how to get to Moreau's apprentice, if he even is still in Blackstone Prison where Amari first spoke with him, because that's beneath the Bureau, and they're kind of on the run from the Bureau. But Laura decides to use her father's at-home computer in his office to look up the apprentice in the prisoner management app, because that's the thing they have. But they don't find an answer to where the apprentice is before Director Van Helsing himself pops up on video chat, because he got an alert that there was a login on his computer. He threatens to send agents to arrest Lara, but Lara claps back, saying that he wouldn't do that because she's the only kid he hasn't disowned yet. And then Van
Which
sort of has a moment. I'm not going to say it's introspection because I don't think that's what it is, and we'll talk about that in a second. But he takes her statement to heart and then ends up telling them outright where Moreau's apprentice is, which is the Sightless Depths, which is the scariest prison in the supernatural world. We've heard tale of it. That's where Dylan was sent after the events of Amari and the Night Brothers. But we haven't yet been there, so we get to go there. Yay. Yeah, so they're going to the Sightless, I don't know why I can't say this out loud, Sightless Depths, which is, again, the scariest prison in the supernatural world, which apparently is not overseen by the Bureau, but by the Goblin King, in the Kingdom of Hobgoblins, in the Mammoth Caves. So Amari and her friends use the lockless key to go to the visitor's entrance, which is nearly abandoned, but for the guard that gives them a single candle to light their way, a map for Elsie to memorize, and then confiscates their electronics. Amari gives her friends one final chance to back down, but none of them do, and the group heads down into the Sightless Depths in a crate basically like elevator type thing. So yeah, so first of all, my first thing is Lara, why? And this is a thing that's it's like consistent. It has come up. It's been coming up since the first book, where Lara and Dylan just have access to Director Van Helsing's like work computers and like transporters and all the. And I'm just like, especially at this point where you have disowned your son, you know what he like that he was using your stuff. Even Maria, like you only got one kid left, and you're and she's friends with Amari, and you're not updating your passwords. Like as the director of the supernatural investigations, you have this really obvious data breach that you have done nothing about. And while I'm grateful, you know, on the Amari side of things, because it makes things easier for us going through, I'm also just trying to figure out why he's the director.
So I after this moment, I was like, okay, he is literally like the old school like IT manager who writes down his passwords on like things, you know, like it's just not tech savvy enough. And then at that point you're like, why are you in charge, right? But the thing that like cracks me up is so Lara says, where is it? Okay. I can get onto my dad's computer. It's in his study. Thing is, he'll get an alert on his phone the moment we log in. After Dylan used tech magic to wreak havoc on the Bureau, the IT guys installed a ton of new security features. But you can still get on your dad's computer.
You can still log on, though.
One of the security features should be, like, biometrically.
Change the password.
You know what I mean? Like,
or just change the password at least.
Yes.
At least
at the very least. Change the password. But like, you know, I can use my fingerprint to get on my Mac. Like,
right.
I think Van Helsing, and this is probably giving me too much credit to the man that I have no respect for, but I think he is pulling something from Regina George's mom's school of parenting, where he's like, I'd rather the kids keep it in the house. Like, let me know. So he's like, I can parent by knowing when my kids are using my information
or breaking into my things to find prisoners.
Like, I'd rather I be the one who catch them, and then they do something that makes me look crazy in front of everybody. At least I can control if I let them have access to my passcode versus them doing something elaborate scheme to find someone else's passcode. You win, you lose, but you get what you get. You know.
It's so funny. It's like, and I say this as someone who, like, I don't know my parents' passwords, but I know I could probably figure it out without locking a device. Especially my mama. She got, like, 3 good passwords on a good day. She might change it up and give you a special character in a new spot, but, like, the base, I know those because they've been the same for my entire time on Earth. No one go hack my mama. I will, you know, but so I'm wondering, so that's what I was thinking it is that like, not even like, oh, I can get into like, I was hoping it would be more like, I think I can get in. I think.
Right.
He hasn't changed.
She's just like, nah, I know.
She's like, nah, I know.
I know it. It's fine. He got these features where he knows if it's logged into, but I could still get in there.
I still can get in there. I still know the password.
Ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But again,
crazy.
For the purposes of what we need to do, I'm not mad at it. I'm just baffled.
Right.
That it's possible. Which then brings me to Van Helsing's like relationship with his kids. And I think it goes into what Porshèa was just saying about like the appearance thing, right? Like you you can't disown all of us. And like he could technically, but I think
what would a supernatural think? You can't raise one not effed up
one
kid.
child.
You had 3 tries and you failed 3
You had 3 tries. And it's like, and another thing though too is that like I would argue like there's nothing like There's nothing wrong with Maria.
No.
You're
He just happens to be a
disowning her because
magician
she's
and
a
like, oh my
magician, but not
God.
because
Oh
she's
no.
actually done anything.
Yeah.
So it's like Dylan is, at large right now, and Lara is running
He's
around.
the most wanted. He's not even like
He's
just
the
like a
most
regular
wanted
criminal.
in the
He's
whole
the
Supernatural
most
Bureau.
wanted.
Fine, yeah, maybe at that point, you have some
Disown
faults,
him.
but
Hang it
okay,
up.
if you must disown him, I get it. You get that one. Lara's running around with Amari, literally on the run from the Bureau. And you're
From your
like, okay,
department.
fine, I'll tell you where they are or whatever. And meanwhile, Maria is in the Bureau as an agent trying to just do her job. And he is.
I do think that he disowned Maria before they found out about Dylan.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they found out when Maria. Right?
He did,
No.
but then they found out that
But like right away.
Well,
it was like a
but they
1-2
found out
punch
pretty
thing, right?
clearly that it wasn't. But it was also pretty clear that Maria wasn't involved with Moreau. Remember, because
Yeah.
Dylan tried to frame her or whatever. So it's not like she actually did anything except.
I know.
Be a
No, but I
magician.
feel like when he disowned, like he probably is right now being like, I really wish I hadn't have disowned Maria for being a magician, or I should like try to reconcile, but her pride won't let him.
I also think, though, in
and
general,
so I also think that that's one of the reasons why it hurt.
Yeah.
Or why he flinched a little bit, because not only was, she's like, Lara's right, like you've already disowned 2 children, but I think it also like the flinch was also because like that disowning of Maria.
Right, he regrets it. I will say I do think that he does have some regret for like his relationship with his kids. I don't think that it is like ultimately,
his pride is still too big
give me
for.
And I don't think it doesn't give me like sympathy for him. But I do think it's interesting that Lara saying that actually did kind of
hurt a little
hit
bit.
him somehow. Like we can't really tell like in what way it really hit him, but it hit him in a way that allowed him to like at the very least give Lara a clue to where they need to go.
I also,
while at the same time told them like now he knows where they're going, but so there's that too.
Yeah.
Well, I think he was probably also thinking like they're not going to go there.
They'll never go into the Sightless Depths.
Yeah.
But on the off chance he could figure out how to get them if they did go. Like he knows where they could be. Let me ask you this. So this is a cute whimsical part of the chapter this episode that I thought was cute, but also it's a very scary, like just a lot happening tumultuously like in this episode. The Newton hiding, like Lara just inviting.
Oh yeah, when he hides under her bed.
Under her bed. Two, like the shadow, like his little shadow, like creature, and him. So how do you think Van Helsing would feel knowing that his daughter invited a creature to just like, oh, we can just hang out under my bed, like it's cool, like it's don't even worry about it. Like I just think it's very funny that he doesn't even know what's happening under his own roof, and the fact that like Newton is like, he fell into villainy, so he is like an almost criminal hiding under Lara's bed, and I just find that really hilarious.
I think it's super funny, but I also feel like if he hadn't have fallen into villainy, I don't know, because like they meet? No, they met him when they were doing a raid. Never mind. I was gonna say, is he like one of the ones that they met during the like show and tell?
He was the one that Amari was supposed to deport, and then she let him go and took,
Shadow. But yeah, I was thinking like because she's got her own wing, he would just be like, just keep him out of my wing of the house. like just a resigned I have no control over these children.
I feel like at this point, which is kind of interesting. It's an interesting reaction, I guess, of like at this point just letting Lara do what she wants because he feels guilty about like.
But when has he ever stopped his children from doing anything? Like the only thing
I know, and that's what I'm saying. Like it's interesting. It's interesting to me because it's not like he was strict. I mean, not that he wasn't like. Obviously, like we've seen the stuff that like Dylan and Maria struggled with, but like it's just maybe like doubling down on maybe it is the cool dad thing. I don't know.
I don't think so. I think what it
But
is that like
They're
he
rich.
they were
How raise their
like
children.
Right.
they
Right.
well, I think it's kind of like the in a sense of like, you know, like the royal, like the little bit that I do know about the royal family from the cozy mystery that I read in which they happen to be characters.
So from fiction, you say?
From fiction. And then like, you know, the Smithsonian documentaries I put on when I'm at work and I just need something in the background. There's this like apparent, like you have to, like, you know, like what you need to, like the appearance thing, right? Like what is and is not acceptable as a member of this family. And if you keep up the appearance, and I indulge you in everything, right? So I think that that's the strictness part of like the appearance and like what you have the royal family loves to call it their obligations, their duty, right? So like you have all this like duty and obligation, which is actually just like making sure you show up at this place and you like present as this thing, and like, you know, it's all very shallowy and kind of surface of more less about your inner life and who you are, but like how people perceive. So if you keep up appearances, then I indulge you in everything else. You know, you can fall in with Epstein and I'll pay to keep it out of the papers and keep you out of jail. But as soon as it like enters the papers, then all of a sudden like you fucked up. Like that's the infraction, not the like moral failure, but the getting caught in public. And so I think that for Van Helsing, it's like, I don't even think it's guilt. I think the sense of failure is like all three of my children have failed to keep up appearances and have publicly embarrassed me in whatever way. And that guilt or failure as a parent is that like, I gave you everything. I indulged your every whim. I got you out of every spot of bother you've ever been in. And all I asked was that you don't embarrass me publicly. And like, we have fallen short on all accounts. So then I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah. Well, oh well.
Well.
I want to also briefly, like I mentioned, like for the last episode or last chapter, like I do feel like these plans, like up until the point that we're going into the Sightless Depths, like I don't think that Amari has been like, she's actually kind of been on point. And one of those ways is when she hides the lockless key in her sock. She just has a feeling that like she needs to hide it, and she does right before dude starts confiscating electronics. So I felt like, at least for the first two chapters of this episode, I'm like, okay, Amari, you're.
So here's my thing about that. I do agree, but the thing that I thought about was like, so he's confiscating electronics they can't have, and then he took the stun sticks when they were
gonna use them
like,
for
you can't have
flashlights.
a weapon, but he's like, we're gonna use them for flashlights, right? So like, you don't have to go down right now. Be like, oh, okay, go to the store,
We'll be back.
We'll be right back.
Well, the thing is
go get some of those,
like they do and they don't, like, because Dylan is also on their tail, you know what I mean? Like there is kind of a clock. And so
I'm not saying like take forever, but just run out, go get some of those, like those, you know, the things that you crack, the flares, like in your socks,
like go grab go use the lockless key to get you
old
to
school
a
flashlight,
CVS, so you can get you a flashlight.
Like be like, okay, what can we take down there?
Right.
All right, we'll be right back.
We'll be back.
Which is a level
but
of,
I do think part of it is they are
whatever.
trying to hide the lockless key too. Like they don't. Like dude doesn't see them arrive.
They just said that they teleported.
They said they took a transporter.
Yeah,
but he doesn't ask them for the transport. You know what I mean? Like he's just like, you can't take the stun. Like they pull out the stun sticks, which was also, I was like, keep those.
Why are you announcing?
Why you announce like, okay, we're ready? You know what I mean?
They also, though, I do think, and this is like, I think it's my next point. Yeah, it's part of my next point is just like I think, when you're like visiting someone, you assume that there are like obviously there are rules. And so for one, they don't know the
Security
rules, but I also
measures.
Mhm.
think yeah, but I also think that they are coming in with the assumption that they're gonna have a level of protection going into the Sightless Depths that they just will not have.
Don't
Um
have.
so
Yeah.
I think that's also part of it is in their heads. They're like, well, we're just visiting. Like, we should be able to like go through. It should be relatively like, yeah, it's terrifying for the prisoners, but like, we're just visiting, so it should
We should
be
be able to
fine.
get in and out.
Yeah,
Or you
and
should make
then you're
sure that
like,
we get out.
exactly. You should actually. They'll care if we get like that. We get out, and they literally do not. They're like, good luck, and it's just like the way you walk. Like when you go or when they arrive, it's like the train station is so abandoned and unused that there's like cobwebs everywhere, and like dude is sleep on the job because don't nobody ever come to visit, um, because it's like
And
they don't
Lara
care
had
about
said
if
like
you're in, you're in.
yeah,
You
Lara
know.
had said like she because she knew where the visitor thing was because she looked into going to visit Dylan to kind of
Mm-hmm.
confront him and then got too scared.
Right.
So yeah, I think most of their security measures is to scare people from visiting at all.
Exactly. Which again I feel like it's like part of it sets the tone for what you're gonna see in the Sightless Depths or not see because it's so dark. But like, um, it- yeah, it sets the tone in the sense of like if they don't care about if they're doing all these things to kind of like dissuade visitors, then it just makes the folks suffer more.
Mhm.
And then for the few people who do decide they want to go, it's like, oh well, like they're not like there's a point too where like Lara's like none of this can be legal, but it's like this isn't the bureau. Like they have some kind of partnership, I guess, with the Goblin King and like that kingdom, but like it's not they don't run the Sightless Depths. So all they do is like here's some prisoners and the goblins are like bet.
So this is the thing that made me think of is like, is this in a way the like in order to keep peace with the hobgoblins, like they're sacrificed to the hobgoblin. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like it's just like because there can't be any if to be sent to the Sightless Depths, there can't be any like prison sentences. Like you are going away for life, right?
Yeah.
Because it feels like because I have a lot of questions about like how do they ensure that people like the prisoners are being fed? How do they like is there food down there for
Right.
them to scavenge? Or you know what I mean? Like is it
Mm-hmm.
do what's going on, you know? They can't
Mm-hmm.
see anything, but it doesn't look like there's any like three meals a day type of like
Right.
in
Right. Like are any
anything.
goblins going down there?
Right. Are they like feeding off of each other? Like
Is there like are
there's
there chutes where or like those like what are those things
Right.
called in houses that they have like you can put stuff in and like the dumbwaiter?
yeah, the
Mhm.
dumbwaiters.
Yeah.
Like, but there's a lake down
Mhm.
there that we see. Like, do they fish? Like, but they can't see shit. So like
And there's a thing
Right.
living in there. Like it's not like
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
unoccupied.
Yeah, like they can't can they bathe in there? Probably not, because if they go in, they're gonna die.
Like
Like
you're eating. Yeah.
what
Somebody's
is
eating down there.
someone's eating?
Good. Well.
That's not funny, but it is.
I'm sorry.
It's horrifying, but also like what is the
It's like cruelty is the point.
yeah.
And
Yeah. 100%.
it's like as soon as Amari and them light that candle, there's already something like that's drawn to the candle, and it's that's really sad.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, we could get that to the next chapter, but it's really sad. So I just like I think about how long they've been waiting. Like part of the thing that like they're thinking about in chapter 26 is like they're remembering that Dylan was housed here, and like Laura
Mhm.
shares that she had thought about coming to visit him, and she looked it up, so she knows like the visiting policy. And I just imagine what Dylan would have felt knowing that like she like came to see him, but also how he would feel knowing that like she never got the bravery to come and see him the first time, but here she's ready to go when Amari there though. Oh okay, oh good,
They
okay.
want to stop him. Yeah. Yeah, and I definitely just think like, and it's a thing that I think they say in this chapter, and then like at least probably once in the next chapter where they're kind of like, this place is terrible, and they kind of like are thinking like, okay, but these people have done horrible things, but then it's like, but you don't actually know what they did, and like, the magicians were put here and didn't necessarily do anything wrong.
Not all of them, at least.
Not all of them, but I mean in terms of like the ones that Dylan
right.
rescued or whatever. Like they were just living their lives and then got taken by Harlow. So then it's just, Sightless Depths definitely got to go.
Yeah. But then it's also like crazy because like even to the like Dylan was not in there very long, like
right,
in
comparison, but like he is still like
he's definitely traumatized from it
and radicalized from it in a way that like everyone talks about like prisons don't rehabilitate, they just actually make criminals. But then it's like, like at the same time when they're like, oh, these are some of the worst or hardened criminals, it's like, but if you let them, what is like because like
sit in the dark and go insane, like
dark.
what?
Yeah,
no, I know, but I'm saying like
hopefully
at some point we decide like the Sightless Depths gotta go. Like how do you save them? Like do you take them out,
take care of those people,
but like do you take them out into like in a dark
prison system,
in a dark thing, and then like
you gradually slowly
give them light again?
Them. Yeah,
because it seems like a lot of them have adapted to this.
Really, some of them may have been built for, you know what I mean? Some people may have already, they may be like nocturnal creatures or whatever.
Yeah, like
because some of them are also like
it just I was just thinking about like, because obviously you're reading this, you're like, oh, this place gotta cease to exist. But then I was like, what is the logistics to like save someone from that? Ooh. Especially someone who's been there for time.
For years,
Okay. Let's get deeper into the tunnel and prison system here, shall we?
Secret tunnel.
Not the fun kind. So chapter 27. Amari and crew are on the loose in the prison tunnels and have to light the candle before they can even really get out of the elevator. Like as soon as that crate hits the bottom floor, they're like, no, go on and light that candle. Sadly, as they start moving away from the elevator, the candle draws the immediate attention of unidentified prisoners who dog every step that the squad makes. And thanks to Elsie's gifted brain, she only just photographic memory, but she has a really great memory. She's able to remember exactly how to get to where the prisoner is located. On their way there, they're like trying to kind of keep a steady, quick pace, and make sure the candle doesn't flicker out. By the time they get to the area where the princess is located, the candle is half full, so they don't have a lot of time. Once they're there, they find out that he has Peeta himself, like Peeta, Bentlark or whatever from the Hunger Games, camouflaged himself into stonework in the wall. And they have to promise him the lockless key via a magician's vow that he makes with them in order to get the coordinates of the Despicable Wonders from him. He gives them the coordinates right off, and leads them to regret any decision they made to trust him at all, because he immediately tries to use the key. It fails because he is gone. He's lost his marbles. He doesn't realize by he's trying to go home, he can't go home because his home has changed to this prison. So instead of taking a moment to not panic, he immediately panics, runs off with both the key and the candle. All the kids are running after him. And thanks to whatever this guy has been doing in this prison, as soon as the other prisoners realize that he's on a move, they ready to move too. And it's really sad and disheartening when they get to like the central area where the lake is. The candle flickers out and it seems like everything's gonna get lost in the dark and the prisoners are taking the apprentice away, when Elsie, the fantastic dragon wonderkin she is, she saves the day in a major way by going full dragon breath on the room. Lara comes in clutch with her supernatural ability, and she's like, when Amari's over here protesting, like, no, I gotta help my girl Elsie, Lara's like, shut that up. I'm gonna get you on over here to the crate, and then I'm gonna move on. So we gotta take advantage of what we got. She gets Amari to the crate. She goes back to get Jaden. At that point, Elsie's no longer just doing a breath. She's running out of breath. She's gone full dragon. Okay? She's blasting, just continually blasting fire, trying to make sure that her like the rest of the crew make it to a safe place. But by the time Lara is on her way back with Jaden, her light flickers out. Amari sees that bigger creatures are also are bumping Elsie, kind of knocking her out. And by the time that Jaden and Lara make it back to the crate for good, Elsie's light goes out, and Amari is scared because where's her homegirl?
This whole chapter, I was just like, how dare.
The fact that I got this shot, I was like, you know what?
I was like, I'm real sick of Elsie.
I had hopes, but
sacrificing herself.
Elsie, we love you. Let's talk about some notes before we get to Elsie. First of all, I named it as ludicrousing, but it's multiple things. The prisoners ludicrousing, like when I move, you move, like to the crew,
just like that,
just like that. But also, the prisoners are also, you are not alone. I am here with you. They're right there. But also another Michael Jackson ad-lib. Somebody's watching me, because it's all fitting to the crew walking in super dark prison tunnels that are highly freaking cruel. Like, it's just, all of this is terrifying. And the prisoners who are also probably very terrified to live here every day, like, some of them probably are just, they're just drawn and attracted to other people, and the crew empathizes with them in that. But also, it's really sad. Like, it's just so sad.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if they were like, oh, new, again, because I'm real, new like, blood. How are they eating? Right? Fresh meat. Or if they were like, oh, maybe I could have a friend, or a new, like, maybe they're thinking that another prisoner is coming. So, like, it seems like safety in numbers, or, like, scoping out.
I just think it's like a moth to the flame. Like, they've not seen light in such a long time. They're just like, oh my God, like, what's happening?
Also, so sorry. It's the candle. I couldn't get a sense. It's like, because the candle, when it goes out, does that mean like it's like, like the stub, like it's getting shorter and shorter and shorter? Because I was like, Elsie, if you do not just blow on that wick.
No, it's because the candle, like, because they said it's half gone by the time they get to where they're
they only have defective candles.
They're all defective.
Yeah, they only
the cruelty is the design
to save money.
That's what they said, quote unquote. We're gonna get into that.
But I'm like, grab a twig. I guess there's nothing in there. You can't see it. But I'm like, set something on fire. Stop. You know what I mean? Like, it was stressful.
Yes. So about the darkness. I was trying to figure out, how is it? Do they even know where the prisoners are within the system? Like, how do they track them? Like, do they have trackers on the prisoners? Because how did they, like, they were able to use the map to pinpoint where the Moreau apprentice is sitting, but he's only been there for X amount of years, and the map that Elsie originally had fell into dust. That takes more than the time that the apprentice has been in the prison.
Well, he wasn't there for that. He hasn't been there for years. I think he's only been there a few months.
He was in Blackstone.
That's what I'm trying to say to you. The map is old. The map that Elsie was supposed to be walking with is old, and it crumbled apart.
Well, no, so they got that, and then they had another one that was like posted on the wall.
Yeah,
but I understand.
But like, okay, but hear what I'm saying.
They're not in like cells. They can walk freely.
They can walk freely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how do you know where they are? Yeah.
How do you know where they are? And then in the even if if visitors were coming and you have this old decrepit map for them, how is the old map keeping track of someone who's fresh in there? There has to be a tracker system that's connected to the maps or something for them to know how to find the prisoners.
Girl, they are trying.
They didn't even
turning around.
Dude said most of the new prisoners hang out back here. and then but good luck. Like, I don't think they actually know. I think he was just like, try here, and if you don't find him there,
off.
oh well.
That leads to my next point.
Bye, baby.
The defective candles are absolutely a setup.
Wild.
And how fast they fade, it validates how
wild.
And because that shows how much of it is a pre-planned ordeal. If we ever get visitors, we probably won't. If we ever do, let's set them up to become prisoners or victims as well. Like that, it's absolutely a feature of this prison system. And
I'm wondering, like, how many visitors are down there?
Oh yeah.
Can you imagine someone being desperate enough to go to the Sightless Depths to visit someone and never coming out?
And also, like, not finding the person that they went to.
They were there to see.
Right.
And like, the prisoner was like, one way out, to like galvanize each other to get out. These prisoners, they're like, come on in. Like, it's so terrifying.
Creepy.
This is like the stuff of nightmares.
I
think no wonder Dylan, no wonder whoever comes here ends up just
irreparably harmed, harmed forever. It's also like really interesting because I just keep going about. So I would like to learn more about the hobgoblins and like, what is this like entertainment for them? Like, are they fed on the misery that they like? Because like when they open it and they smell the whatever, and he's like, ooh, the sweet scent of agony or whatever he says. And I'm like, so is that because like succubi, because I just finished reading Oathbound, they get fed off of, or like demons in the Legendborn world, but also just in like demonology, feed off of like emotions and misery, and like succubi feed off of like sexual energy and like that kind of stuff. So I'm like, do the hobgoblins feed off of this? Is that why they decided to keep them and to keep the Sightless Depths? Like, what benefit do they get from it, or do they just enjoy the idea of inflicting this torture on people?
Right.
I just don't understand how it's just like this like
culture is
like
despicable. They are Despicable Wonders. They're OG Despicable Wonders, the goblins.
Because it just feels like the Bureau just ships these prisoners to them, and then they wipe their hands of them. Again, they're not paying to feed them. Like, what's the payment like to the upkeep of the Sightless Depths? It's obviously it's not high, right? They
what you're making me think with the whatever thing is that, like, what if it's kind of like a less fun version of Monsters Inc., where it's like they're feeding out, like the screams are powering the like goblin like neighborhoods, like they're the electrical system. Like,
maybe
like this is there. You live in darkness, so we can live in light. Like, what if it's like,
it doesn't make me feel. It's not better, but I just keep being like, why?
Why? Yeah.
And I want to know more about the goblins, because why would you do this?
Yeah. Maybe BB Alston will give us a glimpse into goblin culture at some point.
Yeah.
Besides this.
2 more books, reportedly, so hopefully. Because I just need to know that they're not just like, oh, sounds fun, we'll have a little torture place that no one goes to visit.
Yes. So next note. Okay. I wanted to sit here and like scrutinize so many aspects about the apprentice and his hideaway, because there's so many components of this that are just too much to sit on. But this is an episode we're trying to be as efficient as possible on Wizard Team, okay? So the one thing I want to highlight for sure is the image / like, not really a mural. It's like it sounds kind of like, I don't know, it sounds kind of closer to graffiti than a mural of like the Goblin King, and then it says lights out, like basically on there, and I'm like, is the Goblin King the Joker? Like, what's happening? Was like, did he do this? Did the apprentice do this? Like, what was the reason for this? Like, was this like, oh, once you hit here, it's over? You know what I mean?
It's
like,
over.
game over. Like, what was? Did the apprentice do that to kind of like scare other people away? Like, what was the reason? What do you think?
So I was thinking with the apprentice, like when we see him, he's like you said, like doing a PETA, like camouflage.
He is doing a
sorry.
You didn't catch
I was thinking that like he's using, because I'm assuming he still has his magic and it's like illusion magic, because it felt like that's what he was using when Amari
when he made the vow.
When they thought he was Moreau.
When he made the vow. Yeah, and then like it also, you know, thinking you use illusions to camouflage yourself into the side of the thing.
Yeah.
I was thinking that he did that as another way of like just keeping people away. And then I was thinking of that, like the way the prisoners reacted to him is that when he got sent there, he unleashed some crazy ass illusions and like made some enemies. But then I'm also like, why can't you illusion yourself some fucking light?
That might make him a target to be the one, because a light is a beacon in this place.
True.
Yeah.
So, but I was thinking that he did some like scary ass illusions, and so that was just one of them, and it's a way to like keep other prisoners away from his area.
Yeah.
But why? Because what are you eating?
What is the Goblin? If you can't see, what is the point of an image on a wall if you can't see?
But maybe some,
Well, I do think I think some of them can see to a certain extent, like the way that
it says lights out. Like, what does that mean?
I don't know.
He could also maybe somehow know that somebody was coming for him.
Yeah.
If the apprentice did it, he's the only person who knows where the wonders are. It's possible that he did it because that candle is about to be out. So it could also have been.
Do they all know about these faulty candles? Like, if you're a prisoner, you're like, oh yeah, we know that upstairs they like.
Well, he just got there, so who knows what he knows? But he also, I feel like it could also be that well, I don't know. We don't know enough about hobgoblins, but it could also be that the Goblin King is sadistic and be going down to Sightless Depths to have a little nom-noms, a little amuse-bouche.
Fun. Great.
And he wants to make sure, like, if fear is the thing that feeds him the most, he's just like puts a little bit of, you know, extra scary shit around and be like, oh, I'm feeling really peckish. I only want a little bit of fear. I want a little bit of dread. I'm gonna go over here to this cave. Oh, I'm feeling like real hungry. I'm gonna go inside that lake to whatever else is fall. You know what I mean? I don't know how it works. I don't know what the return on investment is for the goblins. So I'm thinking it's there.
Yeah, this is a speculation question, because what is the reason? And my final note is the prisoners yelling, what the dark touches, the dark keeps.
Terrifying.
I think they eat them.
Yeah.
They're yelling it specifically at the apprentice too. So I'm wondering if he has terrorized these people as well, where they're like, you know that if we caught you, we got you. You know.
I think it's that, and the fact that he was like clearly trying to escape too, and they're just like, nah, not on our watch.
Not you, homeboy.
Because he probably, let's say he's been there 2 weeks to a month. No one has gotten their lick in, and he's like the newbie, and they're like, you're not about to leave here. Like, you're not about to be the first one, last one in, first one out. And especially not unscathed. You're not leaving here unscathed. Which is like, oh, I hate it.
Yeah.
Ooh.
This is.
Who wrote this?
I enjoy it. I'm like this is truly horrific. I'm down. but also this is truly horrific. My goodness gracious. What an indictment of the prison system, the industrial
Yeah.
prison complex. Like, oh my God.
Absolutely.
It's like, BB, are you trying to make a point? Are you trying to
Doing it very well.
give us a lesson?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't call it subtle.
Sometimes you gotta knock people in
That's
the
for the
head.
kids, you know. Sometimes you just gotta,
Right. Make sure they
Yeah.
know what's going on.
Yeah.
All right.
MVP.
So I think we're kind of all in agreement, but I wanted to special shout out Amari. I think that like her reckless, not that going to the Sightless Depths wasn't reckless, but like
Yeah.
pulling Dylan into a dream meet. Also, like, I don't think that she is being very like strategic or like manipulative when she does it, but she's like setting or like helping sow seeds of doubt with the unwanted, especially the Nightwalkers, about what actually they'll gain from Dylan getting in power and like what they stand to lose. In that first chapter that I thought was like really interesting. And then in the second chapter, though, I feel like she's very gung-ho without really thinking it through about going, even when we thought it was Blackstone prison, that wasn't going to be an easy like thing to get in and out of either. She was very much like, let's just, let's go, let's see this thing through, in a way that I thought, yes.
But she also gave her friends like I do appreciate that she did acknowledge that it was like dangerous.
Yeah.
And maybe even if she was planning to do it, she wasn't like expecting her friends to just do it too.
Yeah. But I liked the sense of determination, I guess. So I wanted to like especially give her that. And then Elsie. Also, like, to be a dragon with a photographic or damn near photographic memory and being smart as hell. Amazing.
That's why she's Elsie the dragon, as I MVP'd her. And I feel like Elsie, my homegirl, my good homegirl. Because she's a dragon and she went down underground. You got no wingspan underground. You got wingspan in the air.
Right.
Homegirl was getting in the crate shaken. She did not want to be in this situation, but she did it anyway. She was down. And as soon as she needs to be activated, she did not hesitate. She just did it. And again, she had to stop and take a breath on the way to get the apprentice. She was having so many moments where she really was just like facing her fear head on, but nothing stopped her from protecting her friends when the first second of her needing to like got activated. And so if that's not dragon energy, I don't know what is. Like, she just bodied it, and I loved it so much.
It's so funny because in like the first Amari, she's like, I'm a coward and I don't know how to be able to shift. It was literally like as soon as that, like, she unlocked it. Damn it.
Yeah. And I appreciate too, like, again, like her, like you're saying, like her character growth has been really like clear over the past few books, but I also appreciate that it's not like she's not afraid anymore. It's just that she chooses to act even though she's still afraid. So I appreciate that it didn't go from like Elsie's always scared of everything to, oh, she's scared of nothing. It was like, no, she's still scared, but that she's just not gonna let it stop her. Yeah, I love that so much. So yeah, she's also my MVP. And then who did we bench?
I had to go on and bench like the supernatural world, all of them. I wanted to bench the bureau for like partnering with the goblins to do the Sightless Depths, but then I wanted to bench the goblins for having the Sightless Depths, but then I also was like, I gotta bench everyone for allowing the Sightless Depths to exist and continue to exist, but then also like the why? So I just had to go ahead and bench everybody. Like we are all complicit.
Not we.
No, I'm like, why am I in it?
Yeah, I gotta bench us too because we were reading about it.
Nope.
Couldn't do
That ain't
nothing to
how that
stop
works.
it. Couldn't
Oh my gosh.
couldn't go in and change the words that we were reading.
I, as probably hinted from my disdain for the prison industrial complex, benched the Goblin King because what is a sadistic what and oh, you're being very generous by being like, oh, it has to be for a reason, because honestly, it just sounds like
I'm not saying the reason is justified.
I'm saying it sounds like a sadistic mind that just gets their rockets off by knowing like, oh, I'm like putting so many people into like the cruelest and like thing, and I feel like, you know, maybe it'll be something that's kind of like Skrelly, the guy who bought the Wu-Tang Clan album after like messing with the prices of like insulin and crap or whatever like that, where it's like, well, if you have the opportunity to be cruel, why not? I feel like I that's what it feels like to me. And like, first of all, the goblin at the gate, he would be better placed at like a haunted amusement park as a ride operator than as someone who's supposed to be greeting visitors to go down. Like the glee he had in his voice as he was like, oh, let me take them weapons off you. Y'all got anything else that will help you get through the dark unimpeded? Let me have that too. Like, it's very clear that he's like, you're not supposed to survive this. And he's cackling the whole time. As soon as the lift goes down, he's like, maybe I'll see you. Probably I won't. Like, his whole mannerisms, it's like, give me that on Halloween. Like, let me be scared for real, because that's scary. Don't do this to freaking 13-year-old kids. Like, there's already too much that's scary right now. Like, what are you doing? The Goblin King, if I'm holding him responsible for hiring that guy, for the whole like ordeal, the mannerisms of it all, for how all the caves are set up, for the way that the prisoners are like moving around, I'm sure because he likes cruelty, he probably has some like mole like prisoners in there. He's like, I need to make sure it's extra crazy this week. I need to know that people are like devastated. So let me know what kind of cruelty you've done this week. I just feel like, ugh, I hate it.
Him.
I just hate it. I hate it so much. Like there's nothing like there's so many metaphors here about like being like this cruel treatment, like, and like the like being denied light once you have been judged by a jury of your peers or whatever. But also there's just like the thought of like, a lot of this is not just cruelty for like by design of cruelty, although it all is a grand design. A lot of it is also cruelty through negligence for the most part. It's just like, I'm going to not care about lives enough to ensure that the lives continue. How about that?
Ugh.
Yep.
For real.
Very real. I ended up benching Van Helsing because
Dylan.
Like, he just has director.
Oh, director. Okay.
Director Van Helsing, because he just continues to be a negligent and just a negligent father. Like, he hasn't really learned anything.
They never learn.
And even giving them the clue to, or like the next step wasn't really, like, as a father. No. Why are you telling your child where a prisoner is? And
honestly, thinking that your child would have enough sense to not go, but also not knowing your child enough to know she.
And you know she's with Amari, so already they're on the run. They're on the run for already doing some.
What's stopping them from making that decision? What parenting have you given them to make the smart choice?
Literally none. So yeah, he's benched for me, even though, we needed to go for plot, but he needs some
it's
more.
On him.
Yeah. If they die down there, that's on him too, because he told them.
Mm-hmm. And he's the director who's in charge of the maybe he's not.
Security,
Maybe he's not
like,
in charge of the the prison system. You know what I mean? Like maybe he's not in charge of the enforcement. He's in charge of the capturing, but
he
not
keeps track of them and where they are.
Yeah. Mm.
And it's just like, also, why does your kid have your password to your top secret director computer? Anyway.
Thank you for listening. Can we end it on something better?
Like what? We ended on bench. We always ended on bench.
Do you have Amari news or something? Like, what is there to share?
Like, what is there to end on?
It's not the sightless depths and the darkness, but the light you make along the way. I don't know.
That's where the chapter ends.
I know. Everything is so bleak.
We'll be back next week. Things will
Thank you for listening.
Maybe they won't.
Oh, thank you for listening. Join us next week when we discuss chapters 28 through 30. Hopefully we end on it. Woo. Want to join us live to
commiserate?
Be happy? Commiserate? Want to commiserate with us live? Become a BNC baddie and join our live recordings on Sundays at 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern. They're not always this bleak, but
we do what we can. Wizard Team is part of the Black Nerds Create Collective. If you want to keep up with our content, you can check out our website at blacknerdscreate.com. Follow us on Instagram and Tumblr at Wizard Team Pod and at Black Nerds Create. Without further ado, good day.
Bye. Bye.